My ex would have bought me the diamond one. She sighed, holding the ring I saved for. I stood up, took the ring back without a word, and left, returned it the next morning. She called crying, saying she didn't mean it. I said, call your ex, and hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I didn't realize I was merely a placeholder until the very end. Looking back, the signs were there, painted in neon red, but I was colorblind with what I thought was love. I'm a distinct type of guy, reliable. I work in logistics management. It's not sexy. I don't close multi-million-dollar deals on golf courses, and I don't drive a leased Porsche. I drive a paid-off Toyota Tacoma. I max out my 401k, and I fix things when they break. I am the definition of safe. Elena, my girlfriend of 3 years, was the opposite. She was chaos wrapped in designer silk. She was an event coordinator, which meant she spent her days surrounded by luxury. She couldn't actually afford curating weddings for people with old money. She was beautiful, stunning, actually, and she knew it. For 3 years, I thought we had a partnership. In reality, I was a subsidy. We lived in a high-rise apartment downtown that stretched my budget to the limit. I paid the rent, the utilities, the insurance, and the groceries. Elena's paycheck was hers. It went to maintenance, hair, nails, reformer Pilates classes, and a rotating wardrobe of Revolve dresses. Because I covered the boring survival costs, she felt wealthy. She walked around with the confidence of a trust fund baby, completely ignoring the fact that the roof over her head was being held up by my overtime hours. And then there was Julian. Julian was the ex. He was the ghost that haunted our apartment. He was a commercial real estate developer, loud, flashy, and significantly older than her. They had dated for a year before me. According to Elena, it ended because he was toxic and emotionally unavailable. But God, did she miss the lifestyle? It was a constant low-level hum of comparison. Julian used to take me to Cabo for the weekend. Not just camping, she'd say, while we were packing the truck for a trip to the lake. Julian never made me pump my own gas. She'd mutter, if we stopped at a station in the rain, Julian knew the owner of this place. She'd sigh if we had to wait 20 minutes for a table. Yeah, absorbe it all. I took it on the chin. I told myself she was just venting. I told myself that she was with me because she valued loyalty over money. I convinced myself that I was the good guy who saved her from the toxicity and that eventually she'd appreciate the stability I offered. I was an idiot. The dynamic came to a head in November. Elena's car, a used BMW, she insisted on buying despite the high mileage, blew a gasket. The repair bill was $2. Subai, she didn't have it. She had spent her savings on a girl's trip to Miami the week before. I can't believe this. She cried at the kitchen table, looking at the invoice. It's so unfair. Why is life so expensive? Isal pulled out my checkbook and wrote the check. I got it. L. Just try to be more careful with the spending next month. Okay. She didn't say thank you. She looked at the check then at me and said, you know, when I wrecked my car with Julian, he just leased me a new one the next day. He didn't give me a lecture about budgeting. I froze. My pen hovered over the ledger. That stung. It wasn't a playful jab. It was resentment. She resented me for solving her problem because I didn't solve it with the flair of a millionaire. Julian isn't here. Eleanor, I said quietly, I know. She huffed, grabbing the check. I'm just saying, it's stressful being with someone who counts pennies. I should have ended it there. I should have ripped up the check and told her to call Julian. But I didn't. I was planning to propose, and I thought this was just stress talking. I thought a ring would fix the insecurity. I thought making it permanent would finally silence the ghost. So I doubled down. I started picking up extra shifts. I stopped buying lunch. I cancelled my own gym membership. I saved every single spare dollar for 6 months. I was going to buy her a ring that proved I was enough. Shopping for an engagement ring is a terrifying experience for a regular guy. You walk into these showrooms with lighting designed to make you feel inadequate, faced with price tags that look like phone numbers. I did my research. I knew I couldn't afford a massive 3-carat rock like the one she liked on Instagram, not without going into debt, which I refused to do. I wanted to start our marriage clean, not in the red. So I focused on quality. I found a loose diamond one, 2 carat, not huge, but it was flawless. VVS 1. Clarity E, color. Ideally cut. It was a laser in the sunlight. It didn't just sparkle, it exploded. It was elegant, timeless, and it cost me $8. Woo buy. That was nearly all my liquid savings. I had it set in a custom platinum band. It was beautiful. It was a promise. I booked a table at the Obsidian, the most expensive steakhouse in the city. It was one of those places where the menu doesn't have prices and the waiters were tuxedos. The night started, okay? But the tension was there. Elena was in a mood. She complained that our table was too close to the kitchen. She complained that the wine list didn't have the specific vintage she liked. Julian loved this Pinot from 18. She mentioned, swirling her glass, we drank 3 bottles of it the night he bought his penthouse. I grit my fort. One more night. I told myself, after tonight, we move forward. I waited until dessert. I had scripted this whole speech about building a life together, about how much I loved her resilience, about our future. I reached into my jacket pocket. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Elena, I said, my voice slightly shaky. She looked up from her phone. She was actually scrolling Instagram while I was trying to propose. She saw my face, saw the box in my hand, and put the phone down. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God. She whispered, I didn't do the speech. I just opened the velvet box and slid it across the white tablecloth. The diamond caught the low light of the restaurant. It danced. It was perfect. Elena stared at it. The silence stretched. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. She didn't gasp. She didn't tear up. She didn't reach for my hand. She tilted her head to the side, examining it with a clinical cold detachment. She started, her voice trailing off. She looked up at me, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. It's a bit small, isn't it? The air left my lungs. What I mean, she laughed nervously, pushing the box slightly back toward me. It's cute, really sweet. But I mean, look at my hand. Baba, I have long fingers. This is going to look like a toy on me. I sat there frozen. The sounds of the restaurant, the clinking silverware, the jazz music, the chatter seemed to drop away into a muffled buzz. It's a flawless cut. Elena, I managed to say, I saved for 6 months for that stone. She rolled her eyes, a literal eye roll. I know you work hard. It's just, she sighed, a long, heavy exhale that sounded like she was tolerating a toddler's drawing. Julian's fiance just posted her ring yesterday. It's a 3-carat emerald cut. It's massive. I kind of thought you knew the standard. My ex would have bought me the diamond one. You know, not whatever this is. My ex would have bought me the diamond one. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It wasn't a violent rage. It was a mechanical failure. The strut holding up, my love for her just sheared off. The emotional labor, the financial support, the patience, the swallowing of my pride, it all collapsed in a single instant. I looked at her, really looked at her. I didn't see the woman I loved anymore. I saw a bottomless pit. I saw a parasite who had been feeding on my stability while dreaming of another man's wallet. I saw someone who looked at a symbol of my absolute devotion and calculated its resale value. I became incredibly calm. The nervousness vanished. You're right. I said, my voice was steady, deadly flat. Elena looked surprised. I said, you're absolutely right. You deserve the Julian experience. You deserve the 3-carat rock. You deserve the penthouse. She smiled, relief washing over her face. She thought she had won. She thought I was going to apologize and promise to upgrade it. I knew you'd understand. I just want us to look good. You know, we can return this and maybe finance something bigger. I don't mind if we have to make payments. No need for payments. I said, I reached out gently, took the velvet box from the table, and snapped it shut. The sound was sharp, like a gunshot in the quiet dining room. I slid the box back into my inside jacket pocket. Wait, she said, her smile faltering. What are you doing? I signaled the waiter for the check. I'm fixing a mistake. I said, babe, don't be dramatic. She laughed, but there was panic in her eyes now. Let me see it again. It was shiny. I can work with it until we upgrade. The waiter arrived. I handed him my card without looking at her. I'm not upgrading the ring. Elena, I said, signing the receipt, and I'm not upgrading us. I stood up. Where are you going? Her voice pitched up. People were starting to look. Home. I said, to pack. Pack. You're leaving me here. She hissed, grabbing my wrist. We took your truck. How am I supposed to get home? I looked at her hand on my wrist, then up at her face. Call Julian. I said, I pulled my arm free, turned around, and walked out the restaurant. I didn't look back. I could hear her calling my name as I pushed through the heavy oak doors into the cool night air. But I didn't stop. For the first time in 3 years, I felt light. I drove home in silence. Not music, nor radio. Just the hum of the tires on the pavement. My phone was vibrating on the passenger seat every 30 seconds. Calls, texts, FaceTime requests from Elena. I didn't look at a single one. When I got to the apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't throw things. I moved with the efficiency of a man executing a work contract. I packed 2 suitcases with my clothes, my toiletries, and my laptop. I took my passport and my birth certificate from the lockbox. I left the keys on the kitchen counter, right next to the stack of unpaid utility bills she had forgotten to open. I checked into a Motel 6 down the highway. It wasn't glamorous, but the sheets were clean. And more importantly, it was quiet. I turned my phone off completely, cracked a beer, and slept like the dead. I woke up at 8:55 a.m. The jewelry store opened at 9:00. I was the first person through the door. The sales associate, a nice older woman who had gushed over the ring just yesterday, looked confused when she saw me. Back so soon. Did it need resizing? She asked, smiling. I placed the box on the glass counter. I need to return it. Her smile vanished. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did she say no? She said it was too small. I corrected. She said her ex would have bought the big one. The woman's face went through a journey. Shock. Pity. And then a hardened look of understanding. She nodded slowly. I see. Well, Sir, I can process the return, but because it was a custom setting, there is a restocking fee. It's in the contract you signed. It's %. I did the math in my head. 15% of $8. 500 was $1. 275. That was a lot of money. That was a mortgage payment. That was a new set of tires. Do it. I said without hesitation, are you sure? You could exchange it for store credit if... I don't want store credit. I interrupted gently. I want to be done. Just run the card. I watched her type it in. Ilostierna, 275 inches less than 24 hours. But as I walked out of that store with $7, 225 refunded to my account, I didn't feel like I'd lost money. I felt like I had paid a ransom to get my life back. It was this stupid tax and I paid it gladly. I sat in my truck and finally turned my phone on. It nearly crashed from the flood of notifications. 42 text messages. 12 missed calls. The texts ranged from anger to panic to bargaining. You embarrassed me. Where are you? I'm sorry. I was just stressed. Babu, please come home. I love the ring. I swear. I didn't read them all. I typed one response. I returned the ring this morning. I'm contacting the landlord to take my name off the lease. You have 30 days before they evict you, or you can find a roommate. Do not contact me again. Her response was immediate. She must have been staring at the screen. You returned it. Are you insane? You threw away 3 years over one comment. You are so fragile. This is exactly why I compared you to him. Julian would never run away like a coward. I stared at the name. Julian. She was still using him as a weapon even while the ship was sinking. I sent one last message. If Julian is so perfect, Tell him you're single. I'm sure he's dying to pay your rent. Then I blocked her number. I blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I blocked her friends. I went completely dark. The next few weeks were a masterclass in logistics. I waited until I knew she was at work to move the rest of my furniture out. And I mean my furniture. I paid for the couch. I took it. I paid for the 65 inches OLED TV. I took it. I paid for the Dyson vacuum, the espresso machine, and the king-size mattress. I took it all. When she came home that Tuesday, she walked into a hollow shell of an apartment. She had her clothes, her makeup, and her collection of empty wine bottles. Everything that made the place livable was in the back of a U-Haul headed to my new, smaller, cheaper apartment across town. The fallout was predictable. Since she couldn't reach me, she took to the internet. She posted vague, passive-aggressive quotes on her Instagram stories. Things like, "A real man handles a woman's emotions. He doesn't punish her for them, and trash takes itself out. Mutual friends send me screenshots. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I let her spin her narrative. But reality hits harder than an Instagram caption. Without my income, the subsidy was gone. Elina made 30 of them. 000 a year. But she lived like she made $150. Ling. The rent on the downtown apartment was $2. Bye-bye. She couldn't even qualify for it alone. So she did exactly what I told her to do. She called Julian. I heard about it through the grapevine. Apparently, she spun him a sober story about how I was controlling and abusive, how I was intimidated by her past with him. And Julian, the ex she had idolized for 3 years, he didn't swoop in like a knight in shining armor. He didn't propose with a 3-carat rock. He invited her over at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Elena thought she had one. She posted a picture of the view from his penthouse balcony with the caption, "Back where I belong." But she didn't move in. A week passed, then 2. She was still living in our old apartment, frantically trying to sell her designer bags on Poshmark to make rent. Julian wasn't paying her bills. Julian wasn't leasing her a BMW. Julian was using her... It turns out the ex enjoyed having his ego stroked. He liked having a beautiful woman come over whenever he snapped his fingers. But he didn't take her to Cabo. He didn't take her to 5-star dinners. He ordered Uber Eats and sent her home in the morning because he had an early meeting. She was no longer the girlfriend. She was the late night option. Meanwhile, my life was undergoing a silent renaissance. I looked at my bank account at the end of the month. For the first time in 3 years, the number had gone up significantly. I hadn't paid for her Sephora hauls. I hadn't paid for her brunch tabs. I hadn't paid $200 for a date night where I got critiqued for my choice of tie. I had an extra $3. 000 sitting there. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. It was peace. I started going to the gym again. I reconnected with the friends Elena had isolated me from because she found them uncultured. I bought a new set of tires for my truck, All-Terrain, top of the line, and didn't have to ask anyone for permission or justify the cost. I was thriving. Elena was drowning, 3 months post-breakup. The cracks in her facade shattered. I was at a hardware store on a Saturday morning buying paint for my new place when I ran into Mike, a guy who used to be in our circle. "Dude," Mike said, looking uncomfortable, "have you heard about Elena?" "No." I said, grabbing a gallon of slate grey. "And I don't want to..." She got evicted. Mike whispered, leaning in. "Last week, sheriff came and everything. She tried to move in with Julian, but Julian has a new girlfriend, some two-year-old model. He wouldn't even let Elena pass the lobby concierge." I paused. I felt a phantom twinge of sympathy, but it was quickly replaced by the memory of her face at the restaurant, looking at my ring like it was a piece of trash. "That's tough." I said, putting the pain in my car. "She's staying with her mom in the suburbs." Mike continued, "She's been asking about you. She says she made a huge mistake." "She didn't make a mistake." "Mike," I said, looking him in the eye, "she made a trade. It just didn't pay out." I walked to the checkout. I thought that was the end of it, but desperation is a powerful fuel. She wasn't done yet. She was about to crash my reality one last time. The silence didn't last. It never does with people who view relationships as safety nets. About 4 months after the breakup, the digital dam broke. Since I had blocked her number and social media, she found the one crack in the wall, my work email. It started on a Tuesday morning. I saw a notification from a sender I didn't recognize, but the subject line gave it away. Just thinking about you. I opened it. Hey, I know you blocked me. I get it. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for how things ended. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Living back at my mum's has been humbling. I realized that I took the boring days for granted. Julian is, well, you were right. He's not who I thought he was. I miss my best friend. Can we just get coffee? No pressure. I didn't reply. I moved it to the trash. 2 days later, another email. My car broke down again. The mechanic is quoting me $1. Barbie. I don't know who else to ask. You always knew how to talk to these guys, so they didn't rip us off. I'm scared. Opia. I feel like everything is falling apart. I read that one twice. It wasn't a plea for love. It was a plea for competence. She wasn't missing me. She was missing the infrastructure I provided. She missed the guy who checked her tire pressure. She missed the guy who handled the taxes. She missed the guy who stood between her and the harsh, expensive reality of the world. When she was with me, her life was on autopilot. I was the pilot. Now that she had parachuted out of the plane, she was realizing that gravity is unforgiving. I deleted that email too, but the desperation escalated. She started showing up in places she knew I frequented. First, it was the grocery store near my old apartment. I saw her in the produce aisle. She was wearing sweatpants, hair in a messy bun, not the cute messy she used to curate for Instagram, but actually messy. She looked tired. The glow was gone. The maintenance money, the Botox, the facials, the high-end hair color had clearly dried up. I abandoned my card and walked out the back exit before she saw me. A week later, she was parked outside my gym. I saw her BMW, still broken, judging by the sound it made idling. Sitting near the entrance, she was watching the door. I turned my truck around and went to a different gym across town. I wasn't hiding because I was afraid. I was hiding because I knew that if I spoke to her, I would have to look at the wreckage of a person I once loved. And I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of my pity. I was focusing on my own upgrade. I had started dating again, casually. A woman named Sarah. She was a nurse. She drove a Honda Civic, paid her own bills. And when I took her to a nice dinner, she tried to split the check. When I paid, she actually said, "Thank you." It was refreshing. It was normal. It made me realize how twisted my reality had become with Elena, but I knew the confrontation was inevitable. Elena was running out of options. And when people like her hit the bottom, they don't climb. They try to drag someone else down to cushion the fall. It happened on a Friday evening. I was at a semi-formal mixer for a friend's marketing firm. It was held at a rooftop bar downtown. Ironically, overlooking the restaurant where I had tried to propose. I was wearing a new suit. I looked good. I felt good. Sarah was on my arm, wearing a simple black dress, laughing at a joke my boss had made. Then I felt a hand on my bicep. The grip was tight. Desperate. I turned around. It was Eleanor. She must have seen my location on a mutual friend's social media post and crashed the event. She was wearing the same dress she wore to her cousin's wedding 2 years ago, but it fit differently now. Looser. She looked gaunt. Her eyes were wide and frantic. "Can we talk?" she demanded. Her voice was too loud for the setting. Sarah looked at her, then at me. She sensed the history immediately. "I'm going to grab another drink," Sarah said softly, squeezing my hand before stepping away to give her space. That was class. I looked at Elena. "You shouldn't be here." "Elena, I have nowhere else to go," she hissed, tears instantly welling up. "You blocked me everywhere. You left me to rot. I left you to the life you asked for," I said calmly, taking a sip of my drink. "You wanted the Julian lifestyle. You went to get it. Julian is a monster." She cried. A few heads turned nearby. "He used me up. He treated me like a prostitute. He kicked me out at 300A. He laughed at me when I asked for help with rent." "That sounds terrible," I said. My tone was conversational. Like we were discussing, the weather, it also sounds like none of my business. She recoiled as if I had slapped her. How can you be so cold? We were together for 3 years. We were going to get married. I saw the ring. Oh, Pierre, I know you love me. I did. I nodded. I loved you enough to spend my life savings on a promise. And you looked at that promise and asked for a receipt. I was confused. She stepped closer, trying to grab my hand. Her palms were clammy. I made a mistake. I don't care about the money anymore. I don't care about the diamonds. I just want you. I want my safe place back. Please. I'm drowning. I'm living in my mum's guest room. I'm drowning in debt. Just take me home. I'll be better. I swear. I looked at her. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't even feel the urge to mock her. I just felt nothing. She was a stranger. A bad investment I had written off. I stepped back out of her reach. You're not listening. Elena, I said, my voice low and firm. You didn't want me. You wanted a sponsor. You viewed our relationship as a transaction. You thought you were holding a winning lottery ticket with Julian. So you tried to trade up. She sobbed, shaking her head. No, it wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I cut her off. You tried to trade up, but the market crashed and now you're trying to sell your shares back to me. I leaned in slightly, delivering the final verdict, but I'm not buying anymore. I closed that account the minute you asked for a bigger rock. She stood there, mouth open, the tears streaking her makeup. She looked small. Go home. Elena. I said, figure it out yourself. You're an adult. I turned my back on her. I walked across the rooftop terrace towards Sarah, who was waiting by the railing with a smile. I put my hand on the small of her back. Everything. Okay, Sarah asked, yeah. I said, looking out over the city lights, just tying up a loose end. I didn't look back to see if Elena was still standing there. I didn't need to. She was part of my history, a lesson learned in the cost of self-respect. I had paid the restocking fee and I was finally completely free. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.